I wanted to start with my experience, my own experience with the main ray. And this started actually quite some time ago. We learned how to test for main color ray, and I was wearing my main color ray necklace, or I wasn't. Sometimes I was, sometimes I wasn't, and what I found was a lot of times I wasn't. And that was curious to me, because if my main ray was so important and so nourishing, why wasn't I wearing it? Why wasn't I drawn to wear it every day? And the other thing that really began nagging at me was that the test for the main ray involved the pull-in test. And what I understood in every other instance that you use the pull-in test, you would use it when the body had a need for something, when it was deficient in something, when it lacked a gemstone energy. You would see if that energy wanted to come in, and well, if it did, then it would satisfy the need. So if my main ray was so abundant in my aura, why was I using a pull-in test to find out what my main ray was? And if you were in last week's, the last webinar, you understand why. It has to do with the resident and the experience spectrum. Okay, it makes perfect sense. But back then, I wasn't quite sure what all that meant. And the really big conundrum that I had had to do with my understanding of what the main ray was. And it was my understanding that as a spiritual being, I chose this particular ray. This was my portal into the worlds of matter, energy, space, and time. This was my path. This color ray is the one that I chose to link myself from the worlds of pure spirit into the worlds of manifestation and my physical existence, my emotional existence, my mental body, and the whole of who I am. And then a curious thing happened. Over the years, people who were working with the main ray with me at the time, their main ray started to change. It's like, whoa, why? Why? That made no sense, because if the main ray was so integral to who we were, then how could it possibly change? So that was nagging at me. And I've since come to realize that, well, we'll talk about this more later, but I've come to understanding about why that happens. And we'll talk about some really good, sensible reasons why the main ray can appear to change. So that's where I've come from, with having a rich and rewarding experience with the main ray, and then having these conundrums kind of nagging at me. Even as I left the whole gemstone scene for quite a few years, they were still these unanswered questions in the back of my mind, and whenever I thought about color rays or checked in to see where I was at, they would be there. And in the past 2 or 3 years, some of these things have started to clarify. And then this year, 2013, a lot of this is all coming together, and it's time to start sharing it. So I'll be the first to say that I am still in process. I am still learning about color rays, because there is so much to know. This is a vast study, and it can impact our health and our well-being on so many different levels. And with using the color ray gemstones, we have the tools and the ability to interact with the color rays to help our body to make the shifts of the spectrums that are required so we can enjoy better health.